Minutes before we get started to make sure that everyone who wants to join is able to join. Wait a couple minutes before we get started. Cool. Can everyone hear me okay? You could comment in the chat box just so I know you can actually hear me. That'd be amazing. Awesome. We're going to wait one more minute and then get started soon. Awesome. Hey, Alex, thanks for commenting and thanks for joining. Awesome. So it is 3:35. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the webinar. And then this will also be recorded in case you join late so that you're able to view it from the very beginning. Awesome. So let me actually share my screen really quick because I have a presentation for you. Ooh, oh, oh, oh. All right. Can you guys... Oh, geez. Awesome. So if you guys could go ahead and let me know if you can see the screen, we can go ahead and get started. There should be a blue screen in front of you with the word City of Chicago Incoming AmeriCorps Member Orientation on it. And then I will be sharing from the screen today. And so I'll also share the PowerPoint after I'm done as well. Hey, Gachi, welcome to the webinar. Cool. So the first thing I wanted to share was just to congratulate you on being confirmed as an AmeriCorps member with City of Chicago, and also just welcome you to our City of Chicago family. We're really excited that you'll be starting with us in less than 2 months, in just about a month and a half. And we're really excited to have you with us next year and really look forward to having you work with our students. Before I get started, I want to quickly introduce myself. So my name is Connie. I'm the admissions manager here at City of Chicago. I'm also a proud City of Chicago alum. So I served back in 2010 for 2 years. My first year, I was an AmeriCorps member at Orr Academy High School on the west side of Chicago in Garfield Park. In my second year, I was a senior AmeriCorps member, also known as a team leader at Robeson High School in Inglewood. Just really, really enjoyed my service experience and wanted to continue growing in the nonprofit field. And so I ended up joining City Year again as a way to continue, again, developing professionally, but also continue giving back to an organization that gave a lot to me, and also being able to just do work that was really meaningful for me. Our agenda today is really just going to go through a couple different really important pieces. The first one being your service experience. And so I'm going to go through some important pieces of what your service will actually look like. And I'll make sure to kind of go touch on all of the Chicago specific pieces so that you're aware of what to expect. We're also going to talk about preparing to serve and some of the things that you'll need to do to make sure that you're actually prepared to serve. And we'll also go through some of the benefits of serving. And then if you have any questions or concerns around City Year, feel free to kind of ask through the chat box throughout the entire session today. The first part, which is the service experience, is really just kind of going through to see what City Year will look like specifically in Chicago. So I know that many of you have done your own research on City Year, and many of you are very aware of what the City Year ABCs are and what the day-to-day work looks like for Corps members, but Chicago is definitely one of the largest cities that we serve in. And so I wanted to break down first what our school district looks like, and so that you kind of know the environment that you'll be working in, and then we'll go into specifics of how the city year model fits in. The first piece, again, is just CPS at a glance. And so this is just quick facts about our school district in Chicago. CPS stands for Chicago Public Schools. The first piece that I want to touch on is that from pre-K to 12th grade in our school district, we actually have almost 382,000 students who are part of our school district, which is pretty amazing considering just how many students that is. And so you'll be touching just a small percentage of those students while you're working with City Year, but we are working with a really, really large school district. There are 660 schools total. You won't be working in all of those schools, but I just wanted to kind of give you the magnitude of how many schools we serve in Chicago. We also have about 80.2% of our students who receive a free or reduced lunch, which just means that they're from an economically disadvantaged background or they're from low-income neighborhoods. And so about 80.2% of our students are receiving that. City Year Chicago specifically for the 2018-2019 year will be at the largest course size that we've ever been, which is really exciting. And so we will have 242 Corps members deployed all across the city. And we are very excited to have all of you here. And last but not least, the graduation rate for CPS is about 66.3% at this point. In terms of student demographics, so this is the racial makeup of all of our students. As you can see, most of our students in CPS are African American and Hispanic. There are small pockets of students who are about 9.9% are white students, and then 3.9% are Asian students. But again, a majority of our students are African American and Hispanic students. And then in regards to some other facts, 17.7% are English language learners, and so these are students who who are still kind of learning the English language, and they're also commonly referred to as ESL, so English as a second language. And so we actually have a couple school partnerships here at City Year Chicago that we partner with, where a large majority of our students are ELL students. We also have about 13.6% who are enrolled in special education. And then, like I mentioned before, about 80.2% who come from low-income neighborhoods. So these are our school partnerships for this past school year, which is the 2017-2018 year. And so in the 2017-2018 year, we were serving in 26 schools across the country, across the city, I'm sorry. So the 26 schools, as you can see on the right-hand side, are pretty spread out towards the west side and the south side, and then we definitely have a couple schools in the Rogers Park neighborhood on the north side. So that will be pretty similar to the neighborhoods that we'll be serving in next year as well, but we will actually be growing to 28 schools, so we'll be adding on 2 new school partnerships next year. Of the 26 schools that we worked in this past school year, we were in 19 elementary and middle schools, also known as grammar schools here in Chicago, and then 7 of those were high schools. In terms of the grade levels that we work with, we typically work with the 4th through 9th grade. And so in the grammar school space, we will work with the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. And then in our high school spaces, we'll typically work with the 9th graders. There will be some times where you'll have interaction with students who are in the 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, but the majority of our focus list students, who are the students that we're focusing on to help increase their attendance, behavior, and course performance, will be coming from the 9th grade. All of our school teams typically consist of 7 to 12 AmeriCorps members. Again, the team size will really depend on the size of our schools and how many students are enrolled at these schools. And so typically an average size is about 8 people, but there will be sometimes a school that has a lot of students enrolled. And so you will definitely see upwards to a size of 12 AmeriCorps members on a team, but 7 to 12 is kind of the range that we function in Chicago. And just so that you know, ACMs, if you see ACMs referred to anywhere on during this webinar, you will be it'll refer to the term AmeriCorps members. This past year, we also served 1,617 unique students. So we were working with almost 1,700 students And all of our core members, again, we had 230 core members this past year. And so every single person had about a 10 to 12 focus list students that they were specifically focusing on in order to increase their attendance, behavior, and course performance. Before I go any further, I wanted to see if you guys can still see the screen, and then just stop to see if there were any additional questions that I can answer for you regarding CPS and the way that our school partnerships work. Awesome. So I don't see any questions pop up just yet. But as I mentioned before, if you guys do have any questions, please feel free to go ahead and chat that in the box, and I will make sure to answer those as I go. Awesome. So the thing that we focus on at City Year is something called the whole school, whole child model. And so this is pretty much just us focusing on the entire school in order to support the entire child. And so, as near peer mentors and tutors, our AmeriCorps members have an impact on students' academic achievement and engagement in school. We also focus on supporting our students with the most need while also engaging entire classrooms and schools. And you'll be collecting and using data to monitor student progress and inform discussions with your partner teachers and team. And so, as I mentioned before, the three kind of areas that AmeriCorps members focus on, so City Year AmeriCorps members focus on, is A, B, and C, which is attendance, behavior, and course performance. And then we'll kind of talk through a little bit about what each of those initiatives look like in a school building. Awesome. So the first kind of thing that happens in the morning is greeting our students in the morning and also making sure that we're calling those who are absent. Oftentimes, our teachers are really swamped with full classrooms. And so during the first period, they don't necessarily have time to check in with students who are tardy or who are absent. And so as an AmeriCorps member who provides additional adult support in that classroom, you're really supporting the teacher by not only making phone calls home to students who are not in their first period classes, but also checking in with students who are tardy to see if there's anything that you can do to help ensure that they are at school on time the following day. And this is just a really kind of great way to build relationships with students, but also parents and guardians, as oftentimes you'll be calling home and speaking to their parents and guardians. You'll also be working with students on the academic piece. So you'll be working in the classroom, helping support students in the classroom while the teacher is teaching, or sometimes you'll be pulling students for a small group outside the classroom so that you're able to learn, so that they're able to learn a little bit better in a smaller setting where they can ask more focused questions and really understand the content that's happening. You'll also be working on attendance with your students. As I mentioned, you'll be, again, following up with students who are tardy or just not at school and just figuring out how you can get that student to school on time. And then you're really kind of coaching focus list students, like I said, in the classroom, but also in other spaces at the school. You'll be helping the entire class. And so oftentimes while you're pulling small groups, you're also helping the classroom in terms of behavior management and just answering questions for the teacher or answering questions for the students who aren't able to get to the teacher. And so just kind of walking around and making sure all of the students in that class are understanding the material. And then last but not least, you're also going to be leading after school activities, which will be both academic and fun. And so there's typically like a mandatory homework help session that happens where students can come and get extra support for their homework assignments. And then they will also have typically some extracurricular activities or other clubs that you'll run as City or AmeriCorps members that are more so focused on hobbies and things that you're passionate about. So for example, we've had spoken word clubs before. We've had one of my core members was really passionate about music. And so he would have a music club once every 2 weeks. And so it really depends on kind of things that you want to do and really want to incorporate into your day and into your schools, but you'll have the opportunity to do that during your after school space. As I already mentioned, you'll be providing one-on-one support and small group tutoring in English and math. Those are the two subjects that we focus on because those are the two kind of main subjects that will require our students to be successful, especially towards the end of the year in their testing. You're also coaching students to develop social emotional skills and positive routines. One of my favorite parts about City Year is that while we do focus on tutoring and making sure our students are academically successful, we're also focusing on making sure that our students are great leaders in and outside the classroom. And so we'll have mentoring lunches where we actually talk to our students about their behavior and um, how they were a great brother, a great sister at home, or things that they can work on, and things like goal setting. And so, you're really working with our students not only in the classroom, but really helping them develop social emotional skills that are necessary to succeed in life. As I mentioned already, you'll be running after school programs, and also will have the chance to develop some programs if the school is asking you to do so. You'll also be engaging families and the community through in-school events and service days. And so typically every school team will put on at least 1 or 2 family engagement nights. And so these are typically themed nights where we invite parents and guardians and families of our students to come and learn alongside them for a couple hours once every half of the year. And so we'll typically have one in the first half of the year and then the second one in the second half of the year. And it's typically scheduled around our report card conferencing or report card pickup days where our students are already in the building with their parents and guardians. And it's, again, a great way to build relationships with our students' families and really get to know our students beyond the classroom. So like I mentioned before, the team will consist of this says 8 to 20, but typically about 7 to 12 core members, again, depending on the size of the school. Each team is supervised by a full-time impact manager who's going to be your staff supervisor here at City Year. And there will be also a team leader who supports you at your school every single day. And that team leader will be a returning AmeriCorps member in their second year of service. Our school leaders, teachers, and other staff are also invested in your success. And so there will be a lot of discussions and meetings and partnership and collaboration around students' needs and preparing for upcoming lessons and events, but also supporting your own professional development and helping you grow as a tutor, mentor, and a professional in general. These are some quotes of what our City Year Corps members have had to say about their experience. So I'm just going to read it for you. The first person said, "You're going to be working more hours than you think, going to lose more sleep than you think, but the impact that you're going to make is going to be a lot more than you think too." Second person said, "Although this has been one of the most challenging experiences in my life, I have learned more from the wisdom of my students, teachers, and coworkers than I had ever imagined to be possible. I'm so honored to have been a part of this movement." The third person said, "Working with the students and seeing their faces as they succeed is priceless. And last but not least, it is the toughest job I have ever had, but I love how much this job keeps you on your toes. Every day is a new challenge and you learn so much throughout your year." So again, City Year I think is really cool because it doesn't just attract people who are interested in education or interested in teaching. It actually attracts people from all different sectors, and I think it's a really great way to gain professional experience and really gain transferable skills that are relevant in any industry because you're working in a really high stress environment that moves really quickly. It's really quick. It's really fast paced. You're also working on a diverse team of people from all different kinds of backgrounds, all different religions, all different political views, all kinds of socioeconomic statuses and just experiences that people have had. And so you're working alongside people that are probably the most diverse that for me, it was literally the most diverse team that I'd ever been on. And so it was really cool to work alongside people that I had never really come across before. And that's a really valuable skill set to gain anywhere because teamwork and collaboration is a great skill set for any profession that you go into afterwards. In terms of training and professional development, so we recognize that City Year is a 10, 11-month program. And so we try to really intentionally train and develop you professionally so that you're able to be successful in any field afterwards. And so you'll have training throughout the year, and facilitators typically include City Year staff, sometimes teachers and leaders from partner schools. And then we also at City Year Chicago like to bring in community partners and community leaders. And so in the past, we've had Father Michael Flager, who is a really well-known priest on the south side of Chicago at St. Sabina's, and he's a community activist that is just really passionate about just helping young people in the city. And so we've had him come and speak to our Corps before. Our executive director brings like one person at least a month in order for people to learn from their professional experiences, but also just gain exposure to how the city of Chicago works and how there are different stakeholders in the city of Chicago. And so that's a really cool opportunity as well. In terms of support and feedback, so there is the first thing that's on that list is Basic Training Academy, which is the entire month of August. So you'll typically go through a month of training called Basic Training Academy. It's literally 4 weeks of training where we teach you everything from how to be a tutor, how to be a mentor, classroom behavior management. I think I've even heard trainings about like how to drive in Chicago for people who are not from Chicago. There's literally anything that you can think about that can prepare you for your service year in Chicago. We will train you on for the entire month of August. After that, we will pull you out of schools once a week for something called Learning and Development Days, which are pretty much just a continuation of your trainings. And so the first half of the year, we'll continue to pull you out about once a week in order to make sure that you are able to apply some of the learning that's happening, but also ask questions and get further development as a tutor, as a mentor, as a professional throughout the year. And then in the second half of the year, we'll pull you out less often so that you're able to work more with your students. And so you'll have a lot of days dedicated to your training and development as a professional. You'll also have observations and coaching from our staff at City of Chicago. And so there's not only an impact manager who's going to be your supervisor and will be really intentional about developing you professionally and just making sure that you're hitting your goals, but then you'll also have an impact coach or an instructional coach, who are all former teachers who've taught their own classrooms, and they will actually be not only watching you in your classrooms, but also in your small group settings in order to give you feedback on how you're working with your students, on the lesson plans that you're developing, so that you're able to be really effective as a tutor. You'll also have, like I said, regular one-on-one meetings with your impact manager. And so this is just really a way to check in, get a pulse check on how you're doing, check in around how your teacher relationship is going, how your work with your students are going, but then also just discuss like any professional and personal things that are affecting you. And so it's just a really kind of great support system that's built in, and you'll be meeting with your impact manager like once every couple of weeks so that you're having that regular support conversation. We also have a mid-year summit. So that's in January for a couple of days where we just do kind of a mini retreat with all of our Corps. Typically in the past, we've had it with our Milwaukee sister site. And so Milwaukee will come down to Chicago and we'll have a City Year Milwaukee and City Year Chicago joint learning and development day, which we lovingly call CYCHI here. It's just a really kind of great way to learn more about different sites and how they operate, but also just gain best practices from a different site that's doing things a little bit differently, but also to build community with other City Year Corps members. And then last but not least, because City Year is really intentional about developing you professionally, we also have start, mid, and end of year performance reviews, which will be really focused on your development as a professional. And you'll be asked to develop in certain competencies and really rate yourself as a professional, and then have your supervisor rate you at the start point, midpoint, and end of the year point. And you'll have all of those metrics in order for you to just see how much you've grown as a Corps member. There are other opportunities to learn and grow as well. So we are really, the strongest when our members can contribute their perspectives, skills, and feedback to our site-wide projects. And there are a lot of opportunities here to do so. So the first one that I want to mention is Corps Council, which is where there's actually a representation from each school-based team, and they meet frequently with leadership and also each other to discuss a wide variety of policies and practices. The Corps Council in Chicago specifically also focuses on planning out large Corps community building events. And so there's often things called Stone Soup, where we have a potluck where every school team is asked to bring something. And it's literally just like a dinner party at the office and just getting to hang out while earning hours, which is really great. We also have affinity groups here at City Year Chicago, and this is actually, I think, one of a few sites that actually continues to do this, but it's an opportunity for us to connect with others who share similar identities and help foster that connection and inclusion at the site. So the three kind of main affinity groups here are SLAM, which is short for Society of Latino and African American Men, Woke, which is women of color, and then LGBTQ plus is also another group that is that's built to support not only core members but allies of core members who identify as LGBTQ plus. And so these are the three affinity groups that currently exist. I think what's great about City Year is that you're actually able to build out different groups and different things that you feel is necessary. And so there's a lot of flexibility and room for those kinds of things. So you'll have a chance to join one of these groups, but also help build out another group if you feel like that's necessary for your core year. And last but not least, there's additional leadership opportunities at the site. We have something called service reserves where they'll be supporting our civic engagement team who will be going out and planning and executing large-scale service days here in Chicago. And so typically we gauge anywhere between 100 to 1,000 volunteers during these large-scale service days, and our service reserves are really helping plan and also lead out on these service days and lead out on different projects that are happening on those service days. We also have something called the Red Jacket Society, which is a society of people, philanthropists, and people who just donate money towards City Year cause. And so we actually have opportunities for people to learn more about fundraising, learn more about development, especially in a nonprofit setting, and be an ambassador for our Red Jacket Society. And so you're able to be a representative of City Year at these Red Jacket Society meetings and mixers. And so you'll be able to do that as well. And then our recruitment and admissions team here at Chicago also have a RAD ambassadors program where you can actually support recruitment and admissions staff members. So typically we have things like phone banking and calling all of our applicants. And then we also have opportunities such as the Facebook Live panels where our currently serving core members are giving advice to next year's core members. And so these are also additional leadership opportunities for you that you can look forward to joining next year. I'm going to stop right there and see if there are any questions. Can you guys still hear me okay? Awesome. Thanks, Alex, for confirming. And James, thanks for confirming. Awesome. Cool. So no questions yet, which is great. That means I'm covering everything, which is awesome. Cool. So we're going to move on to preparing to serve and what that looks like, especially for the next couple of months or the next 1.5 months while you're preparing to serve with City Year. So the first thing I wanted to go over is the important service dates. So in case you all did not know this, I wanted to make sure that you were clear on what these days are. And so the first one is our start date, which is Monday, August 6th. That is when you'll be starting full time with us. And you'll be pretty much going from Monday, August 6th to our graduation date for next year, which is Friday, June 14th. And before you actually start with us, so you will have to attend a mandatory in-person registration day. There are 4 different options for registration days. You only have to attend one. And those dates are Friday, July 27th, Monday, July 30th, Tuesday, July 31st, and Wednesday, August 1st. As I mentioned, you only have to attend one of those dates, but Wednesday, August 1st is the absolute last day that you need to attend registration in order to start with us on time on Monday, August 6th. And so if you are someone that's traveling from out of town and moving to Chicago from out of state, I would definitely plan on being here at the very latest by July 31st. So that you can actually get to our registration on August 1st on time. The time frame currently is 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. It will take the entire 4.5, 5 hours because there's a lot to go over before you actually start with us. And so please plan on being at our office from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. on one of those dates before you actually start with us on Monday, August 6th. I also have been sending a couple emails about this, but there actually is a confirmed member website, which is a really great resource for you as you prepare for service. And this site is going to be updated regularly with new information, tools, and announcements, particularly around your onboarding checklist. And so if you haven't already gone to the website and seen kind of what that website looks like, I would definitely encourage that. That you do that as soon as possible. I will be showing it in a little bit, but just wanted to make sure you all knew that it existed. The website is www.cychicago.com. All right, so living on a budget. So prioritizing and planning definitely is something that is necessary as a City or AmeriCorps member because you will be on a stipend. There are resources and information on the confirmed Corps member website that's going to help you understand your stipend, other benefits and experiences of current members. And as I mentioned prior, there is actually going to be a variation of what your stipend will look like. And people have different financial circumstances, they have different priorities. And so some people will be coming into City Year and dependent on their parents or guardians or families, and they're able to get some additional support from their families. And then some people will come in being the sole provider for their families, and then some people will just come in with City Year just kind of being your primary source of income. And so wherever you are on that spectrum, City Year does provide a stipend so that you're able to live independently, but it is something that you should start thinking about how you're going to support yourself on a stipend, especially if you're not used to budgeting. So the stipend this year for first year AmeriCorps members, which is all of you, is going to be $630 bi-weekly every 2 weeks before taxes. Your stipend is taxable, and the amount of taxes. Oh, James, can you hear me okay, James? Awesome. Okay. Just want to make sure that. Oh, hello. Hello. Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me now? Hmm. Hello, can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me? Cool. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again so you can see the PowerPoint. Cool. Let's go back a little bit. Awesome. So the first thing that I wanted to share with you all was deciding where to live and figuring out what neighborhood you want to live in. Essentially, what I said in the slide before was that we encourage you to move to Chicago as early as you can. And essentially, we want you to be in Chicago before your start date of August 6th. That helps because you not only get to know Chicago as a city and get adjusted to the city and get adjusted to the public transit system, but it also helps you get adjusted to kind of Chicago life and also just like learning about your teammates, your roommates, and also just getting yourself immersed before you can actually start your 50-hour weeks. Because City Year's 50-hour weeks will start really quickly on August 6th, and you really won't have a ton of time during the weekdays to do that. And so get settled in as early as possible. If you don't already have housing and roommates, please reach out to me. I am having some of our staff members here at City of Chicago call all of you guys over the next couple of weeks to check in with you about housing and roommates in particular. But if you're having an especially hard time with it, there's no stupid questions. And so I want to make sure that you feel supported. In the housing and roommate search process. So please, please, please reach out to me if you haven't found housing. In terms of the neighborhoods that you should be looking in, these are some of the more popular neighborhoods for our core members to live in on the northwest and south sides of Chicago. In the north, we have, so just FYI for you all, Chicago is really amazing because it's a really diverse city. And so there's 77 different neighborhoods in Chicago. And so there's northwest, south, northwest, southwest sides, all that. But these are some of the more popular neighborhoods that are in Chicago that our core members live in because it's affordable and people are able to afford living there and living in those neighborhoods. On the north side, you have Rogers Park and Uptown. On the west side, you have Logan Square, Humboldt Park, Ukrainian Village, Avondale, Pilsen, and then on the south side you have Hyde Park, Bridgeport, Bronzeville, Chinatown. Just FYI, there's also a neighborhood guide that gives you a little bit more details about all of these different neighborhoods so that you're able to kind of read up on the different culture, the different communities that live in these different neighborhoods. But it's really kind of like a mini guide. You can obviously do your own research, but for people who are moving to Chicago just for City Year and feel a little bit overwhelmed about moving to Chicago, I wanted to provide a neighborhood guide to kind of help narrow down the process of searching for neighborhoods. And so those are all of the different neighborhoods. In my 8 years in Chicago, I'm actually also a transplant. I moved from LA to come to Chicago to serve with City Year Chicago and have stayed here since then. But I have lived in Logan Square, Humboldt Park, Pilsen, Bridgeport, Hyde Park, and then now I actually live in a neighborhood called McKinley Park, which is also a really affordable neighborhood right by Midway. And so, again, there are so many different neighborhoods. If you're having trouble narrowing it down, give me a call. I will talk you through it. I will be your consultant on neighborhoods in Chicago, and happy to do so. Awesome. In terms of getting around Chicago, there are three different kind of ways to do that. So the first one is driving. So some people will have access to cars, which is great. If you are someone who has access to a car and you don't have to worry about monthly car payments and car notes because it's a gift from someone or you've already paid off your car, driving is kind of a great option because Chicago is one of the bigger cities across the network, and so it's just a great resource to have in general. I would also just start thinking about like gas and insurance and all of those things, because those are costs that people often forget about that don't easily fit into a stipend life. And so start thinking about that and how you're going to be paying for those things if you are driving. Parking also around the city, typically you have to pay to park. And so those are also considerations that you need to think about when you're thinking about bringing your car to the city. The easiest way to get around in Chicago is public transit, which is really, really awesome in Chicago. And we're really lucky to have that option in Chicago because it's a big city, but you can pretty much get anywhere with the train or the bus systems here, which is called the CTA, the Chicago Transit Authority. So on the right-hand side, those are all of the trains that you see across Chicago. There are also buses that pretty much connect from any of those train lines to pretty much any other neighborhoods. And so you literally can get around Chicago without a car. And obviously, it's not always the fastest way, but it's definitely the cheapest way because every ride is going to be about $2.25. And then a transfer is about 25 cents as well. And so it's literally the cheapest way to get around Chicago. It's great. Everything is accessible. And so that's really a benefit of serving here. I will also say, I don't know if you all knew this, but as a City or Chicago Corps member, you do actually have the option of opting into receiving a CTA pass, which is a transit pass that pretty much will take you anywhere. And that's an unlimited pass starting September 1st until the last day of your service, which is graduation, June 14th. Typically, this unlimited pass on a monthly basis costs about $100. And so for the over the course of a service year, it would cost you almost $1,000. And essentially you're getting that for free because the Chicago Transit Authority has a really great partnership with City of Chicago and understands the benefit of a service year here. And so again, just a really great way for you to have cheap and free public transit options in exchange for a couple hours of service with the CTA every month. Because they can't give away the passes for free because it's almost a $240,000 value for them to donate. We offer up volunteer service hours that our AmeriCorps members can do in exchange for that service, for that transit pass, which again will be a huge benefit. Any questions so far? Any questions so far? Awesome. Cool. So in terms of attendance and vacation policies, and so because we are core members who are supporting students, we are really expecting you to be reliable and consistent in order for you to support your students excellently. And so your students, teacher, and community are counting on your support every day, and that is really important to note. And so once you commit to City Year, we do expect you to be consistent, be reliable for everybody, not only just yourself, but also for your students and the teacher that you'll be serving. At registration, you will receive a calendar of City of Chicago's vacation schedule for the year. And those are the days that the entire Corps is off. And then you'll also get some dates for City Year blackout dates. And the blackout dates are pretty much days that we require you to be in service due to service that's happening at City of Chicago that's really important. So for example, Martin Luther King MLK Day in January is typically a day off for the entire nation because it's a national holiday, but that's actually a date on that we consider a date on here at City Year because we actually do a huge service project honoring the legacy of MLK, and so that will be a day that you have to black out and actually be at service, and you're expected to be there. You also get up to 12 personal days for illnesses, doctor's appointments, childcare emergencies, bereavement, interviews, academic visits for grad school or college visit if you're someone who's graduating from high school, if you observe a specific religious holiday that's not celebrated by the program officially. And then also, even though you have these 12 days, it must be approved in advance, just like any other job by the member supervisor. So that's something to keep in mind as you're thinking about your year. I did see a question really quick. So Alex is saying, what kinds of service do you get to do with the CTA? Super interested in the CTA pass, but also very interested in doing additional service. Curious to know where we are, what we're going to be doing. That's a great question, Alex. So To be honest, it varies a lot because it really depends on the needs of the CTA. So the way that it works, we have a liaison at the CTA that has that will literally email all the different departments within CTA to collect different volunteer service projects for the entire agency. And so they'll literally email out a list of projects for us to assign volunteers randomly to. And so we will be assigning you randomly to a project based on how many hours you've already served or how many projects you've already been on. And so we'll have more specific language at registration for you around these CTA projects, but it can really be anything from helping out at their warehouse, filing paperwork, helping with bus reroutes during the CTA, during the Chicago Marathon, where, most of downtown is closed. And so you're really helping CTA passengers figure out where they can take their bus and where their bus will be rerouted. Sometimes CTA is in the parade and they just want large representation. And so they'll ask all of the Corps members or a huge chunk of our Corps members to come and walk with them and walk in the parade with them. And so again, there's a ton of different things that you're doing. It really depends on the time of the year and also just kind of what the departmental needs are. So it'll just kind of depend on the month. Sarah is saying, can we use some of your days as vacation? Also, do they have to be for what? Do they have to be for those specific reasons? So, Sarah, yes, those are all those are personal days that could literally be used for anything. And so you can use them for vacation, you can use them for whatever, but you'll have the 12 days off for the entire year. Typically, we have about 6 days that we allow for people to take off for the first half of the year, and then 6 days that they can take off for the second half of the year, which is actually just a way to make sure that we're not allowing you to take off too much time before the end of the year, because again, emergencies happen and we just never know what can happen. And so you can use them for whatever you want. You just have to get that date approved by your supervisor, and typically it is approved really quickly as long as it's not on a blackout date. These are great questions. Keep them coming, guys. All right, team placement. So you'll learn about the details of service in K-8 and high schools. And so that will happen actually within the first 2 weeks of your service. And so this is a really important note. You will not find out your team and school placement until about the second week of service. And the reason for that is because number one, we actually are working all summer to finalize the number of school partnerships because so many schools want City Year Corps members. And so we have to be able to assess whether or not that school is going to be or are going to meet the conditions of our success for our Corps members to be successful at that school. And so we're kind of vetting those and also figuring out if the school has money in their budget to have a City Year team at that school. The second thing is, sadly, but very true, is that not everyone that is confirmed to serve with City Year always shows up on the first day of service. And so we don't want to place people prematurely because there might be a team that's missing all of their Corps members and that we won't be able to fill because we've already assigned people to schools. And so we wait until the first week of the first day of service to figure out who's actually committed to City Year and is going to come to City Year and are going to show up for their first day of service, and assign people after that has already been determined. Thirdly, I'm sorry, that was my third reason. Thirdly, we're also making sure that we get to know you a little bit before we actually place you on teams. And so the first 2 weeks are going to be really kind of great for us to be intentionally building community amongst the entire Corps because, it's a large Corps. We want to have you encourage all of you to continue making relationships and building community with each other for the first couple of weeks. And then once you're actually in school teams, it'll be really specific team building around that team. And so we want you to first practice building community amongst the entire Corps of 242 before moving on to team building with your team. And so we are really prioritizing making sure that we're creating diverse teams that meet the school needs, but we also want to make sure that we have diverse teams that have diverse skill sets, different experiences, different talents, different mentoring and tutoring years of experience. If you have any familiarity with a certain city, a Chicago neighborhood, we'll try to place you there as well because we want you to impact your own community. And so all of these things are really kind of taken into consideration and literally done so intentionally so that you're able to have a positive experience and that people on your team are well suited for that school. We unfortunately don't accept requests for specific placements. We do ask ask for your preference of grade level and all of those things. We will take commute into consideration while we're placing people on teams. But again, we don't take specific requests for placements because we believe that you're going to have a positive experience serving at any of our partner schools. So this is actually what I wanted to go over with you all. So let me actually pull this website up. This onboarding checklist, y'all, is going to be your lifesaver as you start getting ready for city year. If you haven't already seen this, I would encourage you all to do this ASAP. This is our City of Chicago website, so cychicago.com. This onboarding checklist is what I'm just pulling up, and literally everything that you could ever need in regards to your service experience is on this website. So there are literally like 11 steps on this website on what to do in order to get prepared for city year. If you haven't already done every single step, please go ahead and try to complete as many steps as you can. Obviously, some of these things will take some time. So for example, finding housing and roommates, it'll take some time to do that. And so once you have that, that can get done in your own time, but I just want to make sure that you are looking at all these different steps that need to be completed in order for you to be ready to serve with us. And so again, please, 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 please check out this onboarding checklist website. There are also just some really kind of cool things on this website that you should start looking over. There's also videos of last year's Corps members providing advice for you as an incoming Corps member on various topics. There's also under serving, there's a tab called frequently asked questions, and this is literally where all of our videos are. So we figured that some people just don't like reading and just want to see like a 1-minute video on questions that are asked often. And so these are all of the video responses to a lot of the questions that we typically get for our City Year Corps members. There's also one other piece that I wanted to share. There's a tab under serving called additional resources. And if you click on that, these are actually books, articles, and podcasts and videos about pretty much specific ways to get ready for your service year. These are all the books that have been recommended to us by our instructional coaches and our impact managers, the staff members who work directly in schools. These are articles that are just kind of really important for, like, for example, we talk about growth mindset a lot during our training. And so this will kind of expose you to that early on. And then if you're a podcast person like me, these, and also just videos, these are just some great Chicago specific videos and podcasts that you can listen to that will give you perspective and background on what the education system in Chicago is like. So again, a huge resource. Alex, I'm so glad that you like the Young, Gifted, and Black book. Again, as you see, like, these are some really amazing resources. And so if you have some time this summer to prep for city year, I would definitely encourage you to just look through these resources. Awesome. So the last thing that I really kind of want to see, there was an email that was just sent out around city year uniform pieces. If you didn't get the email, please, please, please let me know. I will make sure that you get it. On top of the city year uniform pieces, you'll have to actually purchase your own uniforms. So the black pants, the black shoes, and the black belt will be you'll need to provide on your own. And so you'll have to do that as soon as possible. But everything else from the waist up will be provided to you by City Year, and City Year will be paying for those pieces. And so don't worry about paying for them. Some other things that you can do, again, make a budget, find a roommate, set a reminder for your housing search if you haven't already done so. I just emailed everyone who hasn't completed their onboarding. And so if you didn't get an email from me last night, that means that you are done with your onboarding. And so don't worry about that. Thank you for getting that done. Complete your background check. Please, 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 please. That's so important because we're working with students and it's important to get your background check done. And last but not, like I said before, order your uniform pieces from City Year and purchase your uniform pieces of all the black pants, the black shoes, and the black belt that you'll need for your uniform. And as I mentioned before, this is just some of the more important things, but that onboarding checklist on your website has the onboarding checklist on the website actually has all of the things that you'll need to do. So please get that done before you actually get here in August. That was actually the end of my portion. So I just wanted to first, for anyone who cannot, I know that it's 4:34. I know we had some technical and volume issues, and so I apologize again about all of that. So if anyone can't stay any longer, thank you all so much for joining. Be successful in your role as a Corps member and just feel prepared for your Corps year. I do have a couple minutes. I have another meeting at 4:45, and so I can stick on for about 10 more minutes and answer any other questions that weren't answered through this webinar, and I'm happy to do that over the next couple of minutes. Any questions I didn't answer that you feel like you're really kind of dying to know the answer to? Questions, y'all? There's still 5 of you on, so I want to just see if... Awesome. Alex. Question about shoes. Okay, perfect. So your shoes will have to be closed-toed, flat black shoe, mostly black shoes. If you have mostly black sneakers, you can wear those. Pretty much anything that looks somewhat professional. We don't want to be wearing, black sandals because again, those aren't closed-toed. We also are not wearing heels. So because you're going to be working in a school building and walking around a lot, I would definitely encourage you to wear more comfortable like flats, and heels are actually not acceptable for city or uniform anyway, and so don't get black heels. Your question specifically is, are just formal shoes acceptable or are casual ones okay too? I've seen 2 different answers in the last week or so. So yeah, so as I mentioned, more casual wear as in black sneakers are okay because you'll be working in a school, and we want you to be comfortable, but flat, as much black as possible, and not ridiculous looking. So Timberland boots are actually not allowed anymore because Timberland is no longer a sponsor of City Year, and so we're actually transitioning out of the Timberland boots being part of our uniform standard. And so for the shoes, it's just going to be mostly black shoes, and so no Timberland boots will be allowed, except I believe for like service days, because if you want to get those are more so work boots, but for the school uniforms and your training uniforms, you'll be asked to wear black shoes. We're transitioning out of the Timberland look because Timberland is no longer a sponsor. Any other questions? There's still 5 of you on, so I'm guessing that there are a couple more questions. Was this helpful, y'all? Okay, I got another question. About the food stamps, if we plan to enroll into college after our service, how would obtaining food stamps affect our student aid and scholarships? Gaston, I actually don't even know the answer to that question, but that's a great question and I want to get you an answer for that. So let me look into that for you and I'll get back to you. Is that okay? I'm just writing out Gaston's question so that I can get some answer and clarity around what that looks like. So just off the bat, I think it wouldn't affect you too much because just getting food stamps just means that you don't earn enough money to pay for your own groceries, and so it's actually just a really kind of support, like an additional supplement to your income. And so if anything, it shouldn't affect anything, but I will definitely check into that to get you a more secure answer. James, go ahead with your second question. Alex, I think there's some lag time between our sending the messages and you receiving them. There probably is because this is a YouTube live video, and so I apologize for the lag, but I'm trying to get to your questions as quickly as I can. Alex and James, if you guys have any other questions, let me know. I'm happy to answer those questions for you. I have like 2 more minutes before I have to jump off. James, did I lose you? Okay. Part of the onboarding confused me. It asked for a home address, but I'm still not sure where I'm going to live. So what should I put in that box? So there should be instructions for you on putting the city or Chicago office address if you don't have housing secured in Chicago already. And so the city or Chicago address is in most of my email. I actually have access to all of the Workday system, and so you can go ahead and edit your address once you have housing in Chicago secure. Cool. Alex, do you have another question before I head out? I have time for one question, one more question. Final call. Cool. Thanks, James. Awesome. Well, I don't see any other questions coming through. If you do have any questions, please call me, email me. I am going to be really busy this summer because we're actually trying to still fill about 15 more slots in Chicago. And so if you have any friends who want to do city year, send them my way. But we are currently enrolling admissions. In our rolling admissions period at this point, and so feel free to refer your friends. But if I don't get back to you immediately, it's because I'm going to be doing interviews back to back over the next couple of weeks. Just be patient with me. Alex Isaac, is a hot dog a No, I definitely think not. So, on that note, thank you all so much for joining me. I hope this was helpful. And I really look forward to seeing all of you in August. So, thank you all. Have a great rest of your night, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.